and it's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's start, Lefties, with the tragic fall of Bill Burr, a comedian who was once hilarious, unashamedly politically incorrect, and not scared to take on the left's groupthink. But sadly, a lefty wife and a severe case of TDS, well, it's reduced Bill Burr to a sad joke, a very unfunny sad joke. Watch him here on The View. Yes, The View. Here he had a golden opportunity to poke fun at these crazy, hysterical women, but instead he's joined their ranks and is railing against Elon Musk.
These tech nerds that want to build robots because they don't know how to talk to hot women they're gonna take over the world. They're going to take over. They are literally going to replace us. We're like beta right now, and they're coming out with like the VCR. And I think Elon has got the rockets going because they realize there's other Earths out there, and they're gonna trash this one, and because they don't have any concern for it, and they're going to move on to the next Earth.
Not sure that a billionaire with at least 7 baby mamas that we know of has any issues talking to hot women. He should probably be talking to less. But great call there, Bill Burr. Remember when you were funny? I do.
Not to mention, it's a male-subsidized league. We gave you a league. None of you showed up. Where are all the feminists? You failed them. Not me. Not men. Women failed the WNBA. Ladies, name your top 5 all-time WNBA players of all time. Come on. That's it. Name 5 WNBA teams. Name the WNBA team in your city. You can't do it.
Yep, the WNBA and body positivity were favourite topics, and it was always funny.
Ladies, if you could just support the WNBA the way you support a fat chick that's proud of her body and is no longer a threat to you, you know, that league would be doing better numbers than the NBA. Oh my God, that's one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Oh my God, you're a goddess. You're gorgeous. You look great in that bikini. I would kill myself if I looked like that. You saw an alcoholic where you'd be like, oh my God, look at you. You're face down, passed out. Your kids are crying. You're a hero. You're a god. Keep doing what you're doing.
But now Bill Burr is just another lefty losing it, cheering on a murderer and railing against capitalism.
Some corporate had to give himself a bonus check at the end of the year. What if we made it worse, but made it look the same?
Yeah.
Then could our pools be bigger? Free Luigi!
Where did the laughs go, Bill? Where did they go? But I've got to say, Bill Burr still has some ways to go to rival Rosie O'Donnell in the loopy stakes. Fresh from fleeing the US for Ireland, Rosie is now engaging in dangerous democracy denial and trying to start a conspiracy theory about the swing states and Elon Musk's influence.
I question why the first time in American history a president has won every swing state and is also best friends, and his largest donor was a man who owns and runs the internet. So I would hope that that would be investigated and that we would see whether or not it was an anomaly or something else that happened on election night in America when Kamala Harris was filling up stadiums with people who supported her, and Donald Trump was not able to do that. So it's curious to me, and as an American and a believer in democracy, I would hope that we would be able to look at all of the reasons why this happened.
I must have missed when Elon Musk owned and ran the internet. What is she on about? And you won't be shocked to learn that her circle is very small and very insular.
How do you think America has changed in the months since he's been elected?
Well, if you talk to any Americans, they're all in shock, or at least the ones that I know. I will have to say I don't really have many people in my life that support him. I don't really understand how people could support a convicted felon.
Let's go from Ireland to Britain now and hear from the UK delegate for the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women.
I'm actually going to be talking to you about my nipples. As an out and proud trans woman, I can tell you, my nipples have been on quite the journey. Soon after starting HRT, my nipples became quite scandalous.
Now, talking about lefties losing it, remember this chat before the election featuring TDS duo actor Robert De Niro and TV host Bill Maher?
If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power.
A dictatorship. Well, no one has come for Robert De Niro, and Bill Maher is still on TV. And now he will be meeting President Donald Trump at the White House. This has been set up by one of Maher's recent guests and one of Trump's friends, rock star Kid Rock. Let's bring in Newsweek's senior editor-at-large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, what do you think about this? I've got to say, I am not a fan of this plan.
Rita, I don't trust Bill Maher, to put it mildly. I mean, the same way that I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg and a lot of these California liberals who are increasingly in Donald Trump's good graces. Having said that, even though I don't trust him, I'm not sure that it's a politically bad move for Donald Trump. There's very little in the way of downside here. Frankly, there's only potential upside. I mean, Rita, before the election, you and I discussed how the 2024 election in America really did not come down necessarily to an ideological right versus an ideological left divide. Rather, you had the MAGA America First Coalition, which is basically a nonpartisan coalition of the common sense. That's how you had so many prominent ex-Democrats, people like RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard there. And then on the other hand, you had the civilizational arsonists, the woke crazies there. Now, again, Bill Maher is a liberal. I disagree with him on more issues than I agree with him on there, but he is very anti-woke. There are some things that he's potentially amenable to the Trump administration's message on. And more importantly, he's got a massive audience. I mean, he has an absolutely massive audience. His show has won God knows how many Emmy Awards here in the United States there. He has genuine reach there. Just kind of colloquially speaking here in my circles there, people watch his show. I mean, his message gets out there. So if Donald Trump can kind of bring him in, and if Bill Maher can at least become slightly less hysterically Trump derangement syndrome induced, I'm not getting my hopes up for that, by the way. But if there's any possibility of that happening there, seems like it's worth it to me. Again, I don't trust the guy there, but I see very little in the way of downside for this play.
I think he gets a golden run, Josh. Not only is Maher a TDS sufferer, I think he benefits from the bigotry of low expectations conservatives have these days for the left, because occasionally, yes, he'll say something that's anti-woke. He'll point out some sensible point of view, something the right has been saying for years, and we'll stand around and clap like he's said something profound, even though it's really just repeating what has been said by the other side of politics for a long time. But as Megyn Kelly exposed in her chat with Maher, this dude is in a bubble, profoundly ignorant of stuff that he pretends to be passionate about, like election denial.
Hillary Clinton, of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
First of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate. He was an illegitimate president.
Okay, well, first of all, she didn't say he was an illegitimate.
Yes, she did.
You tell me exactly what she said.
She said those exact words repeatedly.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president.
Okay.
What do you say to that? Because, yes, amongst other left-wing commentators and TV hosts, he's far more sensible, far more balanced. But at the end of the day, he has bought all this propaganda about Trump and hasn't bothered to check some of that information, including things like things that have been debunked for years that the left still are pushing these to this day.
Rita, look, I am not a Bill Maher apologist. I'll be very candid with you. I don't even watch his show, actually. But having said that, I've had a number of friends here who have been on his show there. And I can tell you that based on what I've heard from those who have been there on the show with him, some of them have actually tried to talk in private off camera. I won't name names. I won't kind of get into that. But some of them have actually tried to talk about Trump with him off camera there. And they here, there, and everywhere hit a block because he seems to just genuinely have a mental block when it comes to Donald Trump there. He has a very hard time getting over that. Even if he is sympathetic to a lot of his policies there, he's definitely sympathetic to a lot of what Trump says when it comes to the dangers of radical Islam. He's very pro-Israel. I mean, like free speech. I mean, there's some stuff that he genuinely seems to disagree with the modern left on, but he has a massive holdup when it comes to Donald Trump. That's probably what Donald Trump is thinking and taking this meeting, actually. He's like, okay, this guy's a massive critic of mine. He's got a gargantuan platform. Maybe I can bring him in and like, you know, let's get a McDonald's Happy Meal or something. And I'll show him like I'm not a fascist, that I'm not straight out of Munich in 1933 or something there. Again, maybe not the greatest odds in the world of succeeding there, but I'm just not necessarily seeing the downside here.
Oh, look, I think it has a potential to backfire because, yes, he does rail against the modern left occasionally, but that's because he realises that it's stopping them from being elected. He wants the Democrats in power. He's a fan of Gavin Newsom, wants him to be president. So you look at what he's done to California. That's yeah, I've got my doubts about this. We're going to keep a close eye, but I've got a feeling this is going to backfire. Now let's talk about failed VP candidate Tim Walz. He's been forced to apologise, well, sort of, for this idiotic outburst.
They've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping.
Now here Tim Walz sort of apologises, but then he mocks the right for being, and I quote, butthurt. This clown is all over the place.
This guy bugs me in a way that is probably unhealthy. And but I have to be careful about being a smartass. I was making a joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people. But my point was they're all mad, and I, said something I didn't, probably shouldn't have about a company. He is. Agree. They're all butthurt about the Tesla thing.
Josh, does he even realise that the fall in Tesla prices hurts the people in his state? Not to mention the tens of thousands of Americans that Tesla employs.
He probably does not actually realize that because he's not operating at a particularly high intelligence level, if I'm just calling it like I see it here. There actually are some moderate-ish Democrats who are not going like full, complete, utter, disgusting jerk when it comes to the issue of Tesla. So, for instance, Ro Khanna, who comes from Silicon Valley. He plays footsie with a lot of the big tech bigwigs. He had an interview this past week, Rita, where he said, I'm not rooting against Tesla. Tesla employs 20,000 people in my district. Okay, thank you for speaking some common sense there. But Tim Walz doesn't really know common sense from the other side of his foot there. I mean, this man speaks drivel, and when he's not speaking drivel, he's speaking far left ideological pablum there. Thank God this man is not the vice president of the United States right there. I mean, frankly, rooting for an iconic American company to fail in this manner, to root for people who are living off of their investment income, living off their capital gains, people who are in their 60s, 70s, who are retired, who are just living off of their dividends, whatever they're rooting for them to fail is nothing short of disgusting. It's not about Elon Musk. It actually is virtually nothing to do with Elon Musk. This company has a ton of employees, workers who work at the manufacturing mills, and you have investors there. So it's really about them. By the way, I have to say, it was not that long ago, I feel like it was basically yesterday, that Tesla was actually culturally here in America was largely a left-wing company. That was as recently as probably 3, 4, 5 years ago before Elon Musk started making his turn towards the rights. And it was considered to be a culturally left-wing company for a very obvious reason, is that it's an electric vehicle. It was considered to be the clean energy equivalent of the gas-guzzling pickup trucks from Ford and Chevy there. Heck, Rita, I remember in some of my conservative circles, just like during COVID 4 or 5 years ago, we were making fun of liberals for driving Teslas. Teslas. So, I mean, how quickly things change there. I don't personally drive a Tesla. I happen to think that it's wonderful technology, not really my cup of tea, to be honest with you. But the point is, this is an American company that has American employees and employs a lot of Americans, including right there in Tim Walz's state of Minnesota. And you have a lot of people that are dependent upon Tesla stock going up and up and up, as the underlying value of the company should dictate that it will do, to actually live out the rest of their lives. So shame on you, Tim Walz, and thank God, sir, that you are not vice president of this great country.
I think he's the worst vice presidential candidate we have seen. I struggle to think of anybody who has been more disastrous, just more bizarre, more out of touch. And he's the governor of Minnesota. Minnesota state employees have Tesla shares in their pension funds. So if he's cheering on the falling share prices, he knows it's hurting them, or he at least should know. Now, talking about Elon Musk, he's had enough. He has said that he's suing CNN after a panelist, Jamal Bowman, called him a thief and a Nazi.
He's incompetent, he's a thief, he's a Nazi, and people don't trust him.
I'm not a lawyer, you are a lawyer, but that looks like a slam dunk defamation case if Elon follows through.
So the guy he's talking to there, Joe Borelli, is a personal friend. Joe Borelli is from Staten Island. He's a no-nonsense New Yorker, and I wish we saw the rest of that clip, Rita, because I know that Joe Borelli probably socked Jamal Bowman, proverbially speaking, right across the face. Look, Jamal Bowman lost his primary in New York City for being a genuine moron, two, for just being as ideologically left-wing as they come, someone who was basically openly cheering on October 7th Hamas. I mean, I'm barely exaggerating there. Someone who has taken every radical defund the police, open borders, defund ICE, every left-wing lunatic stance imaginable, that guy has taken there. Now, when you're calling someone a Nazi here, look, the technical legal standard, and by the way, this is made up. The Supreme Court made this up. This is not what the First Amendment actually says. But in a 1960s case called New York Times versus Sullivan, the Supreme Court basically said that when you have a defamation suit involving a public figure, with which Elon Musk clearly is, then the burden of proof would be on the public figure, and here that's Elon Musk, to show that the person saying it, that's Jamal Bowman, acted with actual malice. That's the legal standard, actual malice. So look, you definitely, it's possible. It's absolutely possible in this particular case there. You would definitely need some evidence and get to a jury. It would be a whole process there. If you're Elon Musk and you're the wealthiest guy in the world, what do you have to lose by bringing this lawsuit there? You're not worried about attorney fees or anything like that. Go ahead and do it. Send a message to these thugs. Rita, Jamal Bowman's a thug. These people are bullies. The people that are coming across Elon Musk. The only way to deal with a bully, whether it's on a playground in a kindergarten or whether it's on a CNN set, the way you deal with a bully is that you can't just cower in the corner and just let the bully punch you. You have to stand up for yourself and start throwing some punches back there. So if that means Elon Musk file a defamation suit, I say Godspeed and go for it.
Now, Donald Trump got a huge reception over the weekend when he attended the packed Wells Fargo Center arena for the NCAA Wrestling Championships. I had no idea this was such a big deal. The crowd there was huge, and he got a salute from Wyatt Hendrickson, who won the national championship.
Captain America. Captain America.
Rob, I can't believe it.
My jaw's on the floor.
He did it.
And he got a hug there from the champion as well. And we don't see that at sporting events. We've certainly seen it at the UFC. We've seen it at the football. Trump, as much as he is hated by the media and they tell us the polls are against him, when he goes to these sporting events, you're hearing cheers, and that is not normal. Normally, the fans are booing politicians.
Yeah, and he's done this many times now, right? So he actually went to the first NASCAR race of the season, the Daytona 500, which is called the Great American Race there.
Too, yeah.
He got a massive round of applause there at the Daytona 500. He went to the Alabama-Georgia football game this past year, the Army-Navy football games. Everywhere he goes to these big sporting games, he gets a massive round of applause. he's become the modern day Barack Obama insofar as he's the new cultural totem. He's the new cultural icon. Back in 2008, all the cultural momentum in this country was with hope and change and Barack Obama. The cultural momentum right now is with MAGA and America First. It's an absolutely incredible sea change. The Democratic Party, frankly, only has themselves to blame for it as their approval ratings crater into the 20s. The most recent polling has their net approval rating hovering around 27 to 29% or so. So they only have themselves to blame for it there. All Donald Trump basically has to do is get up there and sound normal and talk about normal issues and talk about trying to solve normal people's problems in a normal way there. You know, maybe insert a funny joke here or there. He's very good at that. He's a very funny guy. And then you have a recipe for being a smashing success in today's day and age in America, and that's what he's done.
Well, that's what we are seeing. The media is still having its meltdown. The American public seem to be pretty comfortable with what's happening. Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Rita.